Hello everyone, welcome to my Lancair 320 channel. This is Joe. In a previous video I had mentioned about the incident that I had with my Lancair a few years back, so I thought I would do a quick little video and explain what happened and what I learned as a result of it. So I was around the end of January 2019. I flew up to Las Vegas, landing in Henderson, and as I was coming in to land, I got just a few feet off of the runway, and there was a sudden wind shear, and it basically caused the plane to just drop the last couple feet right down onto the runway. It was essentially the wind changed, and so I stalled out and fell. When I hit the main gear, the nose gear then slammed into the runway, and when it slammed into the runway, it hit with such force that it actually bent the nose gear fork and snapped it right off of the strut. And so I'm skidding down the runway. And actually, while I'm moving, the tower saw what happened and they called me, and they're like, do you need trucks rolled or anything? I'm like, no, 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 just pissed off. Just need somebody to come out here and help me get this thing off the runway. And while I was sliding down the runway, I could hear the tips of the blades hitting the runway on every revolution, so I shut down the engine. So they helped me get the plane off over to the ramp, went and spent the night, drove back home, and then a couple days later I rented a U-Haul truck and borrowed a friend's trailer and drove back up to Henderson and disassembled the wings, and one of the FBOs up there helped me lift it and get it onto the trailer, and I brought it home. The propeller was destroyed. As you can see in the pictures, the blades were bent back, the aluminum propeller. The nose fork was destroyed, and of course the rubber was destroyed. I ended up talking to Lancair out of Uvalde, Texas, and what they ended up doing is, well, first they had me send in the main landing gear legs to put them in the jig and make sure that they hadn't been bent, and they were fine. But when I did that, that was really kind of what started everything on the design changes that had occurred. So when I sent the main gear back to Texas, they called me up and they said, hey, this gear doesn't fit in the jigs we have for the current landing gear, for the design of the landing gear. And basically, jumping ahead, what we found out is that when the guys in Texas bought the company from Lancair out of Oregon, they bought all the intellectual property, but apparently they were not given the entire history of the Lancair designs. They were just given the last revs. And so in my case, with my plane being an 85 design, it was one of the early designs with the small tail. And come to find out is that the landing gear is different. If I wanted to go buy a replacement landing gear now, main landing gear from Uvalde, they've got one landing gear. Use it left, use it right, doesn't matter, it's the same. My landing gear, I have a left landing gear, I have a right landing gear, and they are different sizes, and both of those landing gear are a different size than the current landing gear that they are building. So sent it back to them. They took measurements, so they have it. If they ever need to build one, they can. Turns out my main landing gear was fine. But in doing that conversation, I had them give me the specs that they had for the nose fork, because I had a feeling that something might have been different there, and oh wow, was it different. The dimensions that they had given me for the nose fork weren't even close to the dimensions I had taken off of my existing nose fork. So they were kind enough, they 3D printed the current design that they had and shipped it to me to see if it would fit, and if the gear would fold up and everything. And as you can see in the pictures, the current design nose fork is substantially larger than the original one that was put on my plane. It's about a good third bigger in every dimension. wider. The fork is thicker, it's deeper. It's just all in all, it's a much heavier nose fork, and this one's definitely not going to break. But what we also learned is, if you look at the photos here, is this is probably why Lancair changed the design. Uh, my nose fork just bent like a piece of gumbo, and two reasons for that we can tell. Reason number one is it was undersized. It really wasn't strong enough to be able to handle a harder landing without deforming. And number two, and this is the big one, is that it absolutely appears, talking to Lancair and talking to other people who know about tempered aluminum, it absolutely appears that this original landing gear fork, which was made by Lancair out of Oregon, was not properly tempered. As you can see, the amount of deformity in the fork, it's very substantial, and it happened, in a fraction of a second when the nose gear hit the ground. But there is absolutely zero cracking in the aluminum. It should have had spider cracking at a minimum. If it's been properly heat treated, it's going to be very strong, but not be that pliable. I mean, that's part of what happens when you temper the metal, is you lose pliability, but you gain strength, and there was none, absolutely none, on this fork. So the fork that's actually on my plane is the very first off of the production run of that Lancair out of Uvalde, Texas, built for these. Other than that, things are good, and the plane's doing well. So there you go. I won't keep you all. Just thought I'd give you a little quick update and let you know what happened with that. And have a good day, and talk to you next time.